Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Homeowners insurance increasing or deductible too high? Call, click, or come in. Save a Dave. Dave Miette Insurance Agency.
For over 48 years, Southern Tires and Auto Repair has provided services across the New Orleans metro area. Southern Tires offers a range of tires for all vehicles and ATVs. We also have a full suite of auto repair options, including brake repair, rim repair, custom exhaust, steering and suspension, tire siping, and so much more. Southern Tires and Auto Repair, 2550 Hickory Avenue in Metairie.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and happy Mardi Gras, and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans. I'm your host, Eric Asher, on a beautiful Chamber of Commerce day here in New Orleans. 83 degrees in February. Yeah, you're right. But it's going to be a great Mardi Gras as far as the weather goes, and of course we're going to have a great show for you today. We'll cover all the home teams: Saints, Pelicans, LSU, Tulane. We'll talk about UNO Privateers as well. And to break it down for us, one of the best that we have in the entire state. Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show, has joined us live from coming down from Baton Rouge. And of course, Jordy, welcome to the show. You know, I've always been a big fan, and I'm glad that we could make time to come on down and join us today.
It is my pleasure to be here, man. You know, anything for you. You've always been a great friend, a mentor, somebody that I've looked up to in the business. So anytime that I can get down, especially during Carnival, it was cool to get down here during the week of Mardi Gras to get down to the city. But you got a beautiful studio, and looking forward to the next hour, man. It's incredible. It's incredible.
I want to congratulate Jordy Culotta, who was inducted into the Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. The picture should be coming up now. Well deserved for Jordy, who again has done a great job in his career here in sports here in Louisiana. Again, taking it on his own show that is again really just cutting edge. And Jordy, tell us about the show.
Well, we were in radio for nearly a decade.
Yes.
And really had carved out a good morning show, and T-Bob and I were flying at a really good rate, and then you know, we had gotten into some negotiation and went our separate ways. And at that point I thought, what's going on in our industry? And it's really the digital movement, what's happening right now. And we decided to kind of sink our teeth in to what's going on from a digital media standpoint. And we started our show, the Jordy Culotta Show, over a year ago, and now we moved into our studio on January 1st. And we've really seen our company go to the next level of developing more digital media products. Mikey Matuk, the former All-American baseball player at LSU, finished last season with the White Sox, going back to spring training, has his show now 3 days a week until he leaves, so mic'd up, and which you can find on YouTube. And it's just really cool to see this space growing and see the future of our industry really going to the digital element.
You have really been a trailblazer in terms of, again, the digital media, and a lot of people believe that's the way we're going. Okay?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you look at the last 2 years of our industry compared to where we're going to be 2 years from now, it really is going to be and feel like a century in which we're going to travel as far as media is just consumed, the way that it's presented, the way that you and I interact.
Yes.
I think it's totally changing right underneath our feet, and you know, just in a couple of years and really months span, it's constantly evolving. So we are at the forefront of it. When you look around the state of Louisiana, there's not too many people that are putting out daily podcasts just on the digital element. We are creating habits to people that are driving them to just YouTube every day, Facebook, websites, nothing on your dial, nothing that you have to remote control change. So it's really cool to be in this part of it. I know that you see it. We've talked about it a lot, and you know, look where we are right now. I mean, we're just on a YouTube-based format on a television station. So I mean, it really is kind of just steadily changing in front of our face.
It's pretty amazing. And look, it takes, I gotta say right now, ladies and gentlemen, because I've done it, it takes guts. It takes guts to take that leap. Okay? To do things on your own, to, again, form your own company, and ultimately, again, to go in a direction where a lot of people may have been hesitant to go, but again, as I say, you're a trailblazer. You've kind of been a little bit ahead of the time here in terms of what you've been able to do in a short period of time.
Sure, look, and however we want to look at it, that's fine. We were kind of kicked out of the plane and said fly, you know, and when we looked up and said this is kind of the movement of where media is going, we really did talk about it. We thought we had an opportunity to be kind of first in line in the state of people that had just gone to that digital route, and it's paid off. We've had a lot of talented people come our way. It's incredible how many talented and creative and unique people are in this space and have kind of worked behind the scenes, and just real skill levels that I don't understand can take you to so many levels within this media real quick.
Well, it's one thing to be a trailblazer, but you got to be able to have the content, got to be able to have the personality, and got to be able to, again, hold that audience, and you'll be able to do that as well. Congratulations on your induction into the Italian American Sports Hall of Fame. Talk about that honor.
Well, it's a great honor, and you know, being a prideful Italian from South Louisiana, it really, for my family, it meant a lot, and you know, my girlfriend was there that night. It meant a lot for her. To share and to be there with me, and I was really humbled by Dr. Philip Cancelleri, who's a friend of ours, and Frank Maselli, who do a tremendous job of bringing that to the public. It's the first time in 2 years. They were, you know, they've been dealing with some COVID things and not been able to get that off the ground, but to see that room back in action, I know that you were honored there.
That was the last induction, right?
It was. It
2 years ago,
was. Yeah, that was the last time that event happened, and to be a part of this class with so many talented people, J.T. Curtis, Anthony Renato. It was a really cool room to be a part of. It's something that I'll remember forever.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And well deserved.
Thank you very much.
Let's get started. Okay. Start with the New Orleans Saints. Yesterday, again, Dennis Allen, it was announced in a press release. His new coaching staff is in place. Pete Carmichael will be the offensive coordinator. Doug Marrone moves to the offensive line now, coming over. Cody Burns is the wide receivers coach. Ronald Curry is the quarterback coach, but he picks up passing game coordinator as part of his duties. Ryan Nielsen is now a co-defensive coordinator and the defensive line coach. Chris Richard, co-defensive coordinator and defensive back coach. Darren Rizzi picks up the assistant head coaching duties, but he stays the special teams coordinator. This coaching staff, your thoughts on staying in-house, continuity?
Well, I think it's probably best case scenario right now with the turnover, and to keep everybody, or you know, as much intact as possible as Dennis Allen was able to do when he was able to take over the job. I think obviously Ryan Nielsen, you know, moving up as a co-defensive coordinator, that he's a very talented coach on the rise. That is someone that the Saints have seen a lot of promise in, and now to have him with a coordinator title is going to be really fun to see what he does with that defense. And then, you know, you look at Ronald Curry. You look at that. You know, he's a guy that comes in with a lot of cachet from his time in the league. Has spent a lot of time on staffs, and you know, now with Sean Payton out, it's going to be interesting to see how that side of the ball operates. You know what I mean? There was so much stock put in him, whether it was play calling or scheme or game planning. How they now divvy up those operations on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a little surprised, the hesitation on the part of Pete Carmichael to take the job. You know, and of course, look, they had to interview outside of the organization, especially, again, to deal with the Rooney Rule. And I thought they did their due diligence across the board on defense and on offense. But the thing that was interesting about this was, you know, that Carmichael, who has been really at the side of Peyton since he came in 2006, and has been as much a part of the growth of this offense as Peyton and Breeze, that there was some hesitation there. You know, I've said on this show, on my radio show, you're either all in or you're all out. Hopefully he's all in, and this is a situation where they don't miss a beat. But I think the continuity is something they're going for. We don't know if it's going to work, okay? I mean, this is a situation where on paper you think it's going to work. We'll see how it kind of plays out and what kind of head coach Dennis Allen's going to be. But it's tough. Well, again, going into behind, again, a coach who has done as much here in New Orleans as Peyton hasn't. Your thoughts on the Peyton era?
Yeah.
And again, this transformation now.
Well, I think what Sean Payton did to the city of New Orleans and the New Orleans Saints franchise is things that you make movies about.
True.
I mean, you write books about. I mean, it's things that, you know, I mean, from my standpoint, I was 23 years old, 24 years old when that run started.
Yeah.
You look up, you're nearly 40,
right,
and look at the dominance of years of just being in contention and being contenders, and the draft picks and the Breeze era and everybody that came through. It was a magical run. I think that, you know, we were so lucky to see that, because that's rarity now in the NFL, where a coach can have that type of relationship with a franchise and stick so long.
Right.
But it was, in my opinion, something that we'll look back on with such great pride, but I think that there'll be a little bit of disappointment to it. That
has to be, right?
Has to be, especially for those guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, from this point of view, it's a little disappointing to see all the records and numbers and all the accolades that they were able to accumulate, and only one world championship out of it. And look, that was a magical run, and you'll never forget it. But I think for Peyton and Breeze, even in their, you know, their hours of by themselves, they're probably just like, wow, the fact that we were only, not only did you win one, I think even more surprising is that they only went to one.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? And they had great teams, but, you know, they missed some breaks. But I think that what you look back, it's overall big smiles, great time.
Right.
But there is that piece of,
you
man,
left
I
some on the
wonder if
table.
you should have 2 or 3 of these,
At least,
right?
At least.
Yeah.
And that would, when you look back on it, I don't want to say that's tainted by that, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that they did leave some on the table that they honestly should have been in more Super Bowls and had a chance to win.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. A real challenge for this team now. Once again, about $76 million over the cap.
Yeah.
It's not something again that's daunting, because again they really have this already as a plan set up when they sign new contracts with their players, where they have the ability to be able to move around money, to be able to again get under the cap and open up cap room. The big decisions are going to be obviously Teron Armstead, who has a $13 million dead money cap hit. Yeah. Jameis Winston, who has a $5.5 million dead cap hit, and then Culotta Alexander, $1.2 million. P.J. Williams, $2.3 million. Now again, we'll talk about Marcus Williams in a moment. But if these 4 players move on, that makes that dead money even more daunting for them to be able to get under.
Yeah, and I'd imagine that Armstead's going to get some money on the market.
No doubt.
I look at a team like Cincinnati, where you just throw money at him and say, "Come fix it," you know, and I'd imagine that his number could bloat anywhere from $17 to $20 million, and the New Orleans Saints are just not going to be able to contend with that.
Right.
So it's going to be tough to bring him back. I think that Jameis is coming back.
Yeah.
I think that really he's the best option on the table. I think that from a standpoint of you talking about continuity, and you want to remain, you know, continuous in the personnel and keep up with what you're doing. I think that Jameis Winston makes more sense than anyone.
Right.
So, you know, I think that they'll be able, and this is one thing that with Sean Payton or not, I'm secure that the Saints are going to be able to handle. For whatever reasons, they are cap wizards. I mean, the whole team of Mickey Loomis. I mean, they're incredible at being able to manipulate this number. So, you know, I mean, when I saw 75, I said, "Is that it?"
Yeah.
I mean, they can do this in their sleep.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So I think that they'll get to the right spot, and they'll do it with the right. They still the underlying tone. You know, the fact that I think remains is that Saints have a great roster.
Yes.
They still really have a truly competitive roster in a division that is wide open.
Right.
So it'll be fascinating to see Allen in his first year, because he got a good team.
He does. He inherited a good team, no doubt about it. His defense will lead the way, which is what, you know, when you look at it right now, you've got Pete Werner, maybe breathing down Quan's neck a little bit. But again, to me, I've said this, and I'd like to get your take on it. P.J. Williams, Quan Alexander, there's a niche here in New Orleans for them. Yes, they could go elsewhere and get more money And again, at the end of the day, again, you want more money. But again, if you're looking to be able to have a place where you're going to flourish, I think both guys in this defense have a place for them where maybe if they go elsewhere, they won't have as much success.
Yeah, I think Quan makes a lot of sense here. You know, I mean, it's tough coming off those injuries that he's been battling through, and he's really come back and committed to it. He's a guy who looks like Dennis Allen really loves.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it looks like they've got a real on the field good chemistry. So, you know, when you look at Quan, I think he makes a lot of sense here. You talked about the culture and the fit. He really is. He's an LSU guy. You know, people out down here love his personality. So I'd love to see Quan back. You know, I mean, and PJ Williams. You know, I mean, you can't have enough of those guys in the league, man.
You do.
I mean, in a passing league and the guys that they face and the schedule that they always have to go up against. I mean, you can't ever have enough defensive backs, and a playmaker like P.J. Williams, I think you do your best to hang on to him, but as we said, you know, I mean, they'll have to, you know, kind of work some magic with the numbers and players, but I think that those are two guys, three guys in Winston, if you want to add them to that mix, that are going to make it to the other side.
It's interesting, again, what they're going to do with Marcus Williams, who got a top 5 contract based on the franchise tag last year. He was offered a top 5 deal by the Saints, turned it down for the 1-year franchise tag, and now, again, all indications are he wants to be the highest paid safety in the NFL. I'll ask you this. First of all, is he worth the highest paid safety money in the NFL? And do you think that it's going to be a situation where the Saints may have to tag him again, or they may let him go on the open market and he maybe ends up elsewhere?
I think they're going to tag him again because I think they're just going to try and squeeze it as much as they can. I think he is worthy of top safety money. I really do. I think, like I said, in today's NFL, when you've got that back end secure and you've got confidence back there, you're in a different headspace from a defensive play caller. And now that the play calling or the mind has switched from the Saints organization is now a defensive-minded team.
True, very true.
From an offensive-minded team, then Dennis Allen is going to put more, I would say, stock in that 7th-round undrafted wide receiver. Now it's going to be in the 7th-round undrafted safety and defensive back on guys that he's looking forward trying to bring in. And when he's got a guy like Williams, and you've already got that guy in the system, knows it, and confident, pay him. You know, and I think that they probably understand that. And from that tactic and that theory, I would think that they may even think that it's time to give him the money. You know, if they can work it out and they can make it happen, this may be the time to just, you know, get to the table and say, look, it's time to respect who you are, and this is the type of player we think you are, and if you want number 1 money, safety money, here's how we made it work.
Yeah. Interesting, again, that you mentioned that because Dennis Allen has said that he is going to be involved in personnel decisions. We know the buck stopped with Sean Payton when he was here. Loomis kind of acquiesced to him. There was a lot of wonder and maybe worry in some places about, okay, without Payton here, Loomis is not really a personnel guy. How's this going to work? Can you hold on to Jeff Ireland? And of course, Michael Parrington on the pro personnel side. They have done that at this point. And now it looks like it's going to be maybe, again, selection by committee. With again, interested to see if maybe Dennis Allen has the last word on that, like Payton.
It is going to be interesting to see where in the pecking order that Allen falls on just being able to make a call on draft day, right? Who can decide, who has the ultimate word? Because I'm with you. I think in the hands of Loomis, I don't think that's his best suited role. Probably Jeff Ireland. If I'm looking at the room,
me too.
I would say you run this. You know what I mean? You can also delegate who you would like to make the final call.
And he's a former GM.
Yes, he is. And I think that he's made some behind-the-scenes really good moves that's gotten the respect of the room of the New Orleans Saints. So I think Ireland makes the most sense of just what I know. I'm anxious to hear what type of input Allen has on the scouting process, the evaluation process going into the draft, and then ultimately making the pick, because Saints can go in a couple of different directions here. You know, I mean, a wide receiver and a couple of defensive spots make sense. So I think it'll tell you a lot kind of where they are behind the scenes on which side of the ball they go.
Let's talk quarterback again for a moment. I'm with you at this point. Unless the market is so high for Jameis Winston where there's a bidding war, I think, again, with the $5.5 million in dead money, with him being in the room for the last few years, he seems like, again, the guy that you want to go back to. But is there a possibility this team possibly goes and in the draft and drafts a quarterback this year?
I don't think it's out of the question. I don't think it's that good of a quarterback
That's
class.
the problem. That's the issue,
I mean,
right?
the issue is that there's not that good of a selection of quarterbacks now. Possibly you can get another year out of Jameson. I still think Jameson's a one-year deal coming off the injury.
Okay.
I don't think it's time for him to sign that. I still think there's question marks.
Yeah, there is.
Right?
Absolutely. Coming off an injury like that.
But I do believe that at this point, he's probably the best option, both financially and physically, if he's ready to go, that you would have. And I definitely believe that it is time to start looking at the future of the quarterback position, but this wouldn't be the draft class that I did it in.
No,
you know what I
right.
mean? If I could find a young free agent that maybe I was eyeballing in a couple of draft classes ago that I could get on the open market, possibly, but I would start scouting towards the future of quarterbacks. I'd even start looking at the sophomore, junior classes of college football to start looking on who's going to start standing out.
Yeah. And the other one which we touched on briefly was Armstead. Again, with the $13 million cap hit, that is a tough cap hit for them. You mentioned Cincinnati. I think a lot of people believe that Cincinnati is going to be targeting him. Yeah. And I think the question for him is going to be, okay, he's been often injured here. How much does that hurt him on the open market? I don't think it will, because again, because of his talent at the left tackle position. I think the Saints have an heir apparent with Ramczyk flipping him over if they need to. So I don't think it's a situation where you say you're in dire straits if you let him go. But the question is at this point, how much do they value him going forward?
It's a great question because it's such an important position, but I think the security of Ramczyk and him being paid makes that decision fairly easy.
Right.
I think that Armstead has been a guy that has played some really good football for New Orleans.
No doubt.
He has been a high-end player, man. But I think that his best days in New Orleans are behind him. He may still have good football left in him, but I think from just the financial fit and the reputation that he has of being such a great player, I think that it's probably time to move on. I think that it just doesn't make sense from a cap standpoint. It would probably be a little disrespectful what the Saints truly offered him.
Yes.
That's compared to what he's drawing on the open market. I'd imagine that Cincinnati is just saying, you name it.
Right. Me too. Again, I think it's a perfect fit.
And how, as a professional, do you not turn that down? I mean, it's an easy choice for Teron.
And it's his last contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's got to maximize whatever he can do.
100%. I think it makes sense for both sides.
Right.
And you leave with a real respected handshake. Like I loved my time, and from New Orleans Saints standpoint, we appreciate what you did.
Yep, no doubt. Alvin Kamara. It's again, it's the big elephant in the room right now. Again, he'll be in early March. He goes to court in Las Vegas. I'm on the record as saying, from again a legal standpoint, he may be able to again get the charges maybe diminished in terms of because he's never been in trouble before. Maybe he gets community service. Maybe he gets having to pay a fine. Civilly, he's going to pay dearly for what has happened. And of course, we've not seen the video, right? We're going based on what we've been told in the media. But on the NFL side, he's looking at a suspension
for sure.
Okay, 4-6 games, somewhere along that line. It really, in this situation, considering he is the offensive, even when Thomas coming back, he's really, again, the key to the offense. It makes me feel like they've got to go out and get a running back now with only him and really Mark Ingram in that backfield. Where do you stand on the Kamara situation? And then is there now a urgency to be able to bring in a running back?
I would imagine there would be, just even if Kamara was full go.
Right.
I think that was a position that needed evaluating and needed some more bodies in the room. And now with this situation with Kamara, which is dire, from Dennis Allen's standpoint. First year head coach, the best player on the team. This guy's really kind of the focus of the entire operation, and now you're dealing with this stuff. And it sucks. You just can't, there's no other place, there's no other way to describe it. You just kind of meddle through it. You got to get through it, man. You're going to have to grind through it. But I do believe that it puts a premium on getting a running back in, whether it's through the draft or through the open market, that you can find somebody out there. I do believe that this situation has put them in a spot where, the whole thing's going to be built around him.
Yes.
How do you even install it? How do you even get it in? It's just.
And you can't find another player like him.
No.
Because he's so unique. Which leads me to my last question on the Saints. What about a Leonard Fournette?
I would love it, but I think that.
You think he's going to be outpriced?
I don't know if he's going to be outpriced or if he's going to ask too much.
Right.
I think it's going to come down to a point where he's not going to have as many options as he may believe. But I think he wants this running back one number and that might be hard for him to. I think it'd be a great fit.
Right.
I think Leonard
Especially
Fournette,
with an aging Mark Ingram, right?
I think a Leonard Fournette in a Saints uniform to finish out the last 4 to 6 years of his career would be magical for him.
Underrated as a pass catcher.
Well, he's gotten better.
Right.
He's gotten significantly better. I think Tom Brady really did him well in showing that off. I mean, there were sets last year where they'd split him out and throw the ball to him. His body is in tip-top shape. I mean, he looks, like St. Aug Leonard or sophomore season LSU Leonard. And I would love to see him in the black and gold.
I think it's a great fit. The question is, how much is he going to command on the open market?
Absolutely.
Because again, look, running back split carries now, and you could still have him as your running back and still utilize Kamara in so many other ways. It'll be interesting to see what way they go with that. I don't know if they're going to put a premium on again going out and getting a running back of his ilk. But I think for the Saints, I think they almost have to look at that because what do you have in Mark Ingram? Maybe a year left.
Yeah.
And
maybe.
So. And he just brings. He can do everything for you. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He's a local guy. There's a lot of really good reasons why he would be a good fit. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, after hearing from our underwriters, we'll start on Pels and Zion, and then we'll get into some LSU. We'll talk some basketball. We'll talk some college basketball and also college baseball as well. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. Our guest today is Jordy Culotta of the Jordy Culotta Show. I'm your host, Eric Asher. We'll be right back.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show, is our guest. All right, we have 23 games left in the NBA season for the New Orleans Pelicans. They're 23-56. They're 5-5 in their last 10 before the All-Star break. They are 2 games out of the 10th spot right now in 12th place. And normally we'd be talking about what's going to happen in the last 23 games. But again, the narrative this week has been Zion Williamson. It started at the All-Star break when, again, C.J. McCollum was interviewed by the TNT crew. Kenny Smith asking if he had been contacted by Zion since the trade. He said he was not, and that he was going to get to the bottom of it. Since then, they have communicated, but then things just kind of blew up after that. A pamphlet that was sent out to season ticket holders. It did not include his name. It included there were several other players that were on the pamphlet, but he was not included. Also, then JJ Redick on Tuesday on the ESPN shows came out and blasted Zion for being a detached teammate. Talked about again how he spoke to Zion about again what it means to be a professional. And since then, it has been not just the talk of the town, but the talk of the league. The question is, do you think first of all Zion will come back this season? Okay, and then we'll get into long term.
I do not think that he's going to be back this season. I think that he is horribly out of shape.
Right.
I think he's detached from basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's putting off a odor of not wanting to be here just by whether it's the rehab or not showing up for the games, much less not playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that this is a dire situation for David Griffin and the Pelicans. I think that this is a situation that if you're New Orleans, you've got to cut through all of this noise that's happening, and somebody's got to get to Zion and sit him down and let him know what the future is going to look like, because it feels like from this point of view that this is going to be the first player in NBA history that turns down that early rookie max deal that New Orleans only can offer,
right,
and has that opportunity to do it. So I was routinely on Zion's side at the beginning of this.
Yes.
When it started, kind of in the first 2 years. I thought that David Griffin and the Pelicans were worried about so much other stuff, breathing exercises and nutrition.
Right.
Just get him on the floor. Just let him play. He's a basketball player. I mean, just put him out there. But over the last, it feels like year, 6 months, they've kind of tried to right the thing and made good moves to build it around Zion. You know what I mean? I mean, it's built almost around his style. I mean, you ship off Lonzo Ball because he's going to kind of play the primary point position. Right. You bring in Valanciunas. That's a really good fit for what you want to do. Right. C.J. McCollum is a, I mean, come on. I mean, you're able to get McCollum from the Trailblazers, and he doesn't even reach out to him.
Right.
You know, I mean, at the very minimum, this guy's the president of the players' organization. If he just text messages you, you should have a relationship with this guy as the type of, you know, character he is. It's very disappointing from a standpoint. Look, I'm, you know, 60 miles away, an hour away from here, and when I saw that draft pick, the first thing I thought of was my son. You know, at the time, he was 9 years old. I thought for the next decade, he's going to grow up watching Zion Williamson. This would have been like me watching Michael Jordan grow up in Chicago. I mean, this was incredible. And to see and look up 3 years in that he's only played 84 games. And it seems to be always something on where he's not going to get back. I hope they can right it. Because right now it feels like it's in a state of just shattered.
The pamphlet was the thing that really got, when you put Green, B.I., you put C.J., and you put Valanciunas on the pamphlet, but you leave Zion off, who has been the focus of this franchise since, again, he was the first overall pick a few years ago. I thought that was a shot across the bow on the part of the Pelicans. And I thought it was very, very telling. At the very least, they knew they were going to get pushback from the Zion camp. So if you're not willing to be able to take the next move and maybe say, okay, it's time to detach and cut bait here, you don't do something like that.
No chance, no doubt.
You just don't do something like that because you already have, the relationship is already fractured.
Right.
So that's only going to fracture it even more.
Sure.
Okay. Now again, there were some other posts on social media that showed that on almost some of the next pages he was in the pictures, but the words are the ones that really kind of get you. I did not have a problem with him rehabbing in Portland. If we were told, the narrative was that's the best place for him. They have the best doctors for what he's dealing with and rehab specialist. He's at the Nike facility, had no issue with it. But the detachment of not staying in communication with your teammates, not communicating with C.J. McCollum, again, I think it's telling.
Well, it is telling, and for Zion, what I think he needs to start being cognizant of is that it's business now.
Right.
It's a professional reputation that you're now building around yourself, and at the very least, from this point of view, you look difficult. You look hard to deal with. And in any market that he goes to, whether it's playing in New Orleans or he wants to get to New York, I mean, that is going to be chopped up.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that is going to be criticized, and that is going to be critiqued, and that is going to be held over his head, really, throughout his tenure anywhere he goes. And it seems like the family has a lot of say-so.
Too much say-so, honestly.
It seems like that's the problem. And at some point, Zion is going to have to be a pro.
Right.
And he's going to have to put pros around him to manage this, because this comes off at the very least as just bad business.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to return C.J. McCollum's phone call.
Right.
I mean, he needs somebody around him if he's saying out loud, like, C.J. McCollum called me and I'm not going to worry about it. Like, no, Zion, call him back.
Right.
You need a relationship with him. Forget the PR of what would happen if McCollum goes to All-Star Weekend and says y'all haven't talked.
Right.
Like, that would be terrible for you. Just call him back.
Right.
I mean, he needs somebody around him to point out those simple missteps that are happening in his professional life, that there have to be GMs and scouts and decision makers in front offices and saying, at what point does the talent? It's not worth all this BS.
Right.
It's not worth the circus. And he's still worth it.
Yes.
He's still in his prime, and he's still worth top dollar, but that's going to fade, man.
Yeah.
And if you can't get this part right, the longevity of this thing's not going to last.
Right. For the Pelicans, they're in a tough spot.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, look, Christian Clark reported from the Advocate that there was a possibility of a second surgery. The fact that there has been silence from the Pelicans camp again is, I think it's a bad move on their part.
Yeah,
Again, I think they tried to be more transparent recently. But again, I thought that they should have been more open on the steps in which they've gone with Zion. But in some cases, a lot of people feel it's because they don't know. And you see, that is an issue. Yeah. You have to know. Right. Okay. Christian Clark reported in his article this morning that Zion's stepfather is his personal trainer. Are you kidding me? You hire Aaron Nelson here in New Orleans. You have personal trainers around the country who are the best at what they do, including at that Nike facility up in Portland. And you're listening to your stepfather on how you need to rehab. That's an issue here when again he has made $30 million already and played 85 games.
Wow. It's fascinating to see the mismanagement up to this point of a prospect. It was almost as if Zion 3 years ago, you would have presented this scenario and you would have said, that's impossible.
No, it is.
There's no way that you can get to this point because of just how talented and how much of a attraction he is. And to see the shine that has been scrubbed off of the player, the prospect, the ticket seller, it is amazing. I mean, it really is fascinating to say just the slide that he is on because, and in today's world where we've seen it, Tom Brady wanted to control the message of him retiring. It wasn't going to be ESPN and Adam Schefter in the world. He said, no, I'm going to say that on my Instagram, on my Twitter account. I'm the one that's going to get the credit and the clicks for it. Zion Williamson has that control.
Yes, he does.
All he has to do is just take this phone and point it in his face and say, here's the deal.
Right.
I tried to call C.J. McCollum. It got mixed up. I got in touch with him. It's all good. I want to be in New Orleans. I'm in Beaverton. I'm working out here at the Nike facility. I don't have to have a second surgery. This is what my weight looks like. You know, and it's over.
Amen.
And it's over.
That's right.
And it's over. But they are allowing, this is like 1990s news, where the news story was really the one that was driving. Everybody was like listening to and now an athlete can just come out and say,
they have their own platforms.
Man, just put on Instagram, I got 1 million followers. And you know what I mean? In 3 minutes, that is international news. Right. Zion Williamson got on his Instagram today and cleared up all the rumors of where he is with the New Orleans Pelicans. True. And they would go directly to his Instagram page. And he gets all of that coverage, the digital media age. I mean, Tom Brady just asked for $50 million to form a digital media company so he can control the message. Right. And Zion has a great opportunity here to control the message. Yes. And just get out in front of it and say, look, time out. I know what everybody thinks, what everybody's saying. Here's the facts. I'm working out in Nike because I want to work out with my trainer who is X. I'm going to be back when I'm not having surgery and I'm ready to play in New Orleans. It's over. Right. It's over. Right. And everybody's settled. And even if that's not the plan, the fact that there's nobody behind the scenes telling him that this needs to be the plan is even more concerning. I mean, this is a $30 million prospect within the first 3 years of the league, and his public relations looks like it's run by Joe Oliva. Right. You know what I mean? That's right. Like, I mean, it's terrible. Right.
Moving off of Zion and stay with the Pelicans for a couple more minutes. Now I mentioned again 2 games out of the 10th spot. Adding of C.J. McCollum, they're 1-4 since he came over. That's a transition type period here. Do you anticipate them with 23 games left making the play-in game?
You know, I think if they do, that would be a huge success. What I will tell you is that I'm a believer in Willie Green. I'm a believer in the culture. I believe that they've got a really good thing going. They just don't have that superstar that draws you to the arena every single night. Zion Williamson would be a great fit on this team. I think this would be a playoff team if Zion was on it. But I think that the future is bright for New Orleans in the sense of the basketball team. I don't know with what happens with Zion and what that'll do to the fan base of losing a guy like Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, and now Zion. I mean, do you just kind of say, look, I'm tapped out on the basketball thing? Right. You know, I mean, we've tried, we've had superstar after superstar, and it's just not clicking. But I believe if you're just evaluating the basketball right now,
Right.
and you look at what Willie Green has done from a coach standpoint and the moves that Griff has made over the last 6 months to a year,
Right.
they look solid,
Yes.
and they look almost like a superstar away. And
Right.
that's another concerning part for a young basketball player that's trying to dictate what he wants to be and where he wants to be. The easiest way to do that is go get on a good team and go be an all-star.
Yes.
Right? Where everybody in the league says, okay, you know what? He's worth all that headache. I'll deal with that, and I'll pay you $130 million. Come up to New York.
Right.
If that's what he wants to do, the easiest way to do that is play basketball.
Right.
With this team.
But unfortunately, we don't know if that's ever going to happen again. A lot of people believe he's played his last game, and then it comes down to a lot of like what's going on with Michael Thomas in New Orleans with the Saints. If you truly don't want to be here, the best thing for you to do is get on the court or on the field and prove you can still play.
Yeah.
And then that way the team can get some value. It'll be interesting to see, I think, how this plays out. Let's go to LSU football. Yesterday, Brian Kelly introduced his staff to the media and to the fan base. Your thoughts on the hiring of Brian Kelly and what he's done thus far in terms of his staff?
I think that LSU football has been waiting on Brian Kelly for a long time. I think that he is the right guy at the right time for the LSU job. For the last 15 years, that position has been, it's almost been satire. I mean, it's been, you got Les Miles who wears the hat.
Right.
You got Ed Ogeron, the local guy who's got the gruff voice and always kind of being aggressive in the public. And now you've got Brian Kelly who shows up, who is buttoned up, who's very calm, who's got a clear plan, who's very well described on why this is the first time he's meeting with the media and what's taken so long, and it's because he's just trying to implement, his program and get out and recruit and meet people. And, I think that right now, where LSU is, Brian Kelly is the exact right guy for the job. And he's been very impressive, in my opinion, of building a roster that was depleted.
Yes.
Bringing in and attracting coaches from other big-time programs and other spots that are really good fits. And, creating buy-in. I mean, they are a team that cleaned up in the transfer portal, and they look like a team that was going to be eaten up by the transfer portal.
Yes.
Right? And so his ability to come in and manage to keep the roster intact and also add to key spots on the roster, I thought said a lot of his ability to recognize issues, go out there and have problems solved. And I expect LSU, just like he said yesterday, that if they played today, they'd be in trouble, but they'll be ready to play when the fall gets here. And I expect them to be a little bit more competitive than we really even anticipate. You know, I mean, 500 sounded like a miracle 2 months ago. They may have they may make a run at a couple of games that they shouldn't be in. I mean, I think he brings that type of cachet, and with guys like Cortez Hankton, who's down here, and a local guy, and Frank Wilson, obviously. You've really been able to regain control of the state, I think, from a recruiting standpoint. The NIL stuff is going to be something that they'll have to manage.
That's where I want to go. Obviously, Texas A&M shocked a lot of people, right? Okay, and it also showed that despite all the rhetoric that LSU was ready with for NIL, they were not. Where are they now?
I think they're leaps and bounds where they were in recruiting season. I think they're a million miles from where they were, when they put out the NILSU marketing campaign in the middle of Times Square. I think that was just a lot of cool colors and a lot of good advertising ploys behind the doors. There just was no plan behind it. And once people saw that Texas A&M and Texas and even Alabama are very prepared for this assignment. They were, they understood the assignment. Texas A&M understood what NIL was going to do to recruiting, and they got it together. And they're really, they're so far out in front of everybody right now from just being an organized conglomerate of being able to pay these kids and have a clear plan for it. LSU's catching on. LSU's catching up. Gordon McKernan has done tremendous things locally over in Baton Rouge as far as kind of spearheading. He was big on keeping that roster intact.
Yes.
Guys like Keishon Butte and Ali Gay, and even bringing guys in from the transfer portal like Miles Frazier and Karen Lewis, the big wide receiver from UL. He was a guy that really did good stuff locally. I think that LSU's trying to bring together what Texas A&M has done is that they've brought together a collective group of Aggie donors who are successful business people,
Right.
and they have just dumped money into what they call a collective, right? And now the coaches have the opportunity to recruit towards that, where they know the budget. It's a GM. It's
Right.
an NFL franchise. It's what the Saints are doing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? They're just looking at talent, and they're saying, hey, here's the top 3 safeties, here's the top 5 wide receivers, here's the best defensive linemen. Let's go get this guy, that guy, this guy, this guy, and let's make them an offer that they can't refuse, right? I mean, Denver Harris was the #1 cornerback in the country. He was out of Houston, Texas. His stepfather is Tack Minor, the former basketball player, point guard at LSU.
Right.
Tack and I are really good, close friends. We lived together in college. So throughout the recruiting process, we were having Tack on the show, right? And it was well understood that LSU was Denver Harris's dream school. He wanted to go to DBU. He wanted to run out on Saturday night. He wanted to be coached by Corey Raymond. Corey Raymond was the guy that was recruiting him.
Yes.
And once the coaching staff turned over, Frank Wilson did a really good job of keeping that relationship intact. And LSU was still the school. But Texas A&M came in on the final recruiting weekend, and it was over.
Right.
All those dreams, all those thoughts, all those things of growing up as a kid, wanting to play at LSU, it was over because there was a contract in front of your face with numbers that were real, money that was real, and I'm not going to LSU anymore.
Right.
I'm going to Texas A&M, right? So, I mean, that's the things that you have to recruit against now.
Yes.
Kids that grow up wanting to go to a certain place, but now the money's not allowing to. It's becoming a business.
Yes.
Just like we talked about with Zion Williamson. I mean, it's now becoming this for high school kids where you've got the ability to go out there and get big money at schools like Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, and LSU is looking at that and saying, hey, you can't lose Jacoby Matthews from Ponchatoula.
Right.
You know, you can't lose Aaron Anderson from Carr. You can't lose these guys, Shaz Preston from St. James. You know, I mean, these guys are going to certain places because schools are showing up and saying, hey, look, I know LSU's kind of trying to get it together, but we got it together. Here's what we're going to pay you. Here's how we're going to pay you. Here's what you need to do to get paid. And if you got any questions, here's who you need to call. Right? So you coming to Alabama or not? And Danny Lewis, who's a 3-star tight end at Westgate, LSU has wide open playing time at tight end.
Right.
Wide open. Alabama's got 3 tight ends in front of him that are going to be pros, probably. And because Alabama and Saban come in with $25,000 that they'll pay Danny Lewis and keep him away from Brian Kelly and LSU, just to kind of send a message to Kelly like, hey, man, I run the league. You may need a tight end. This guy may be based in Lafayette, but I'm going to come in. I don't even need a tight end.
No, right.
I'll take him, though. Yeah. But and the way that I'm going to get him is that I'm going to pay him.
Right.
And I'm going to pay him above board. And I'm going to pay him above the table.
Right.
And LSU didn't have they couldn't combat that. They couldn't defense that. And, you know, we know Frank Wilson. That'll never happen again.
No.
You know.
What was the disconnect? How were they not? Well, their athletic director, in a lot of cases, has been ahead of the game. You look at the gambling money. How did they get where, again, they fell behind?
In my opinion, there was too much stuff in on the docket ahead of it. Right? Like you had to clean up Title IX. You had to clean up the Ogeron stuff. You had to clean up what was going on. You had to go hire Kim Mulkey. You had to go. There was so much stuff that needed alignment. The academic department of compliance.
Yes.
It was a mess. Right? I mean, everything that was going on at LSU, I mean, by the time he got to NIL, it was recruiting season. You know, you look up and Jacoby Matthews is going to Texas A&M. You're like, how the hell did that happen? Well, you're not ready for it. Well, we got to get ready for it. Okay, and now they've gone into scramble mode and they've put together, you know, tables of people that are coming in and speaking on that at like banquets, like Jay Johnson and Brian Kelly and, you know, Cody Worsham and these people that are connected to LSU are bringing these business people together and saying, look, this is how we can get there. But the problem is that the state legislators really run the rule, right? So like Florida's state law on NIL is that the schools can communicate with the business owners and say, hey, I got a player who needs an NIL deal. Do you need somebody to handle your social media or tweet out something for you? Yeah, I'm going to send him over to you. At LSU, You know, like we talked to Kim Mulkey this morning on our show. Alexis Morris is a Gordon McKernan athlete. Gordon just bought the entire team's shoes as an NIL deal. She can't really speak about that as the coach. But that's a huge
So this is a legislative problem as well. This is something the legislature's got to tackle?
It's down state to state. It comes state to state.
Yeah.
But, you know, because the real problem is that the NCAA is so weak and weak-minded, they can't step up and create any type of government for it. So now it's come down to each state. You just run it.
Right.
You know, so however the state law is written, the state law in Louisiana says that the institution can't have communication with the business, you know, saying, I need you to pay my kid.
Right.
I need you to pay my student. I need you to pay my player. And in other states, that's happening. If you remember, Alabama lost to Georgia in the national championship college football. A day later, they lost a five-star recruit.
Right.
Alabama and Saban changed state law 48 hours later to get that guy back. I mean, that is how fragile this stuff is. And the LSU lobbyist, you know, who's doing that now has a, you know, got a full ear from Brian Kelly, Will Wade, Kim Mulkey, Jay Johnson of get us on a competitive playing ground with Texas, Florida, Alabama, and Georgia, and get it done tonight.
Right. Now, where have you guys heard this information before? Come on. This is what I'm talking about. That's why you need to be checking out his show each and every morning. So this is a legislative problem first in Louisiana.
Absolutely.
They have to change the law.
Right.
And then
it's not that big of a problem, Like, it's not, LSU's not in a bind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
but if the institution, if you can emulate what Florida's doing.
Exactly. That's the problem. You've got to play catch up.
And then
it's
if
just
you can
like
emulate
facilities.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I mean, well, they lead the league in facilities, but again, it's facilities mean something, but money means more now.
Right.
Okay. Well, you said Tack Minor. You guys room together. His son, LSU. He ends up at Texas A&M. Why? They cut him a check.
I mean, Jacoby Matthews is crying on the phone with Frank Wilson, telling him, I got to go to A&M.
Right.
I mean,
how do you pass up $100,000?
How do you do it? You know, especially with your mom and dad looking over your shoulder, saying you're not passing this up.
Right.
I love LSU too, but you're not going.
Right. So my guess is this legislative session we'll see a change.
Absolutely. They called a special session last week.
Right. Okay.
Right? So I mean, this legislative session.
So you think it'll be on the docket of the special session?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
And then from there, people say that Louisiana doesn't have the deep pockets that Texas and other states have. I say, come on, we do. Okay. It just has to be organized. What do you say?
They do have the deep pockets like other states do. They have the passionate deep pockets like Texas A&M's boosters are and Texas's boosters are.
You don't believe they do?
I believe that there is a group of people that can play ball with anybody on any college campus, right? If it comes down to one player, LSU can get them if they need them. If it's going to be a collective where people are just dumping money into an account that the school has access to or the recruiting department has access to, I don't know if LSU can keep up with that game, right? I don't know if the numbers of people, the amount of people will show up and say, yeah, I'll give you $150K, or I'll give you $500,000, or I'll give you $2 million, whatever they may be looking for. I think that list at Texas A&M is
right.
Jimbo,
well, look at their endowment.
Jimbo can read that book all night.
Right.
Saban has 100 guys that he could probably raise $500 million from right now if he needed it. You know, if he's got a quarterback in Texas that needs $1 million, that's a text message. You know what I mean? It's done. I think Brian Kelly has been on that tour the last month and a half. That's why you haven't heard from him. I think he's been sitting down in back rooms and in CEOs and made the trip up to Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras and spoke to that room up there, which is a deep, deep pocket.
Yes, it is.
Right? And he's allowing people to know, if you need access to me about how you can help the group, we will have those lines of communication available for you, right? Where Ogeron was telling people to call Derek Panamsky in a room, Brian Kelly is coming in and saying, here is our plan, and if you are interested, this is how we play, right? So when the recruiting cycle comes up next year and these conversations are had, Brian Kelly can now combat that and say, look, Jimbo just left and he offered this. Saban's on the phone and he's putting out this number. Everybody just calm down, sit down, here's the deal. Right? We may not be able to present you the $150,000 contract like A&M is here, but we're going to make sure that your mom and dad are taken care of for every game. They'll be at every game. They're traveling, their hotel, all that stuff, which is really what the main concern of the players is, right? When we talk to players about NIL stuff, the thing that they're trying to get done in NIL from a player standpoint is just take care of my family. I don't want them blowing me up in the middle of the week, asking where my tickets are, where am I staying, where's the hotel room, who's going to get me the cash to get me, right? Because they all have a handler. They all have somebody locally in Baton Rouge that's helping them out,
Right.
you know, making sure that they can eat, right? Some of that money always goes back to mom and dad to help them out. If these NIL deals, if you can just take care of mom and dad, get them to the games,
Right.
make sure that they got hotel rooms on the road. Jacoby Matthews is coming to LSU.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's a simple. You don't have to throw me the 100. Yeah, that all looks good. But Jacoby, you're going to be making $3 million in 5 years.
Right.
Right. Like, we'll get you there. But mom and dad don't have to. You don't have to worry about all that stuff during game weeks, and that is going to relieve a ton of what stresses student athletes and players have to deal with that you and I don't even think of. We don't think of that stuff. We just show up on Saturday and say, catch the ball.
Sure.
Don't fumble. You know, make that block. You know, but really they're thinking about, damn, I couldn't get my cousin to the game. You know, and I've been telling him I'm going to bring him here for the last 3 weeks. And if, you know, I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Gordon, can you get my cousin from Daytona here for Saturday night? And Gordon says, absolutely.
Right.
Then I can worry about playing Florida State.
So in your opinion, they were a little bit behind, obviously because of a lot of things were happening at LSU, but come this recruiting season, they'll be ready.
I think that they'll absolutely be ready. They'll be ready enough to have the conversation.
Right.
They won't lose the top 3 pass catchers in the state due to NIL stuff. Right? I mean, you talk about Aaron Anderson, Shaz Preston, Kendrick Law, make it the 4 top, Danny Lewis, the tight end.
Yes.
You know, LSU needed every single one of those guys. They needed every single one of those guys.
Right.
But they had no defense in the living room when they said, well, Alabama's paying me 100. And you know, you're like, we'll get you 100 from who? Just trust me. No.
Yes.
They've already showed me how they're going to get it for me.
Right.
Right? But LSU, I think when that next year comes and they've seen that, they'll say, you know, here's how we're going to provide.
Right.
Right?
Great information.
Thank you.
That's all I can say. Great information, because a lot of people don't have the insight that you have into the NIL because it's so new. And again, it just all we knew was LSU was behind.
Yeah.
But why? Now you gave us again the steps on what they have to do to be able to catch up.
It's professional sports.
It is.
It's representation.
There's no more amateur athletics.
There's representation.
Right.
There's advertising agencies. There's marketing agencies. There's people that are paying attention to this stuff and representing both the player and the business and trying to get them to the table.
And it's more than football.
Absolutely.
It is the entire athletic program.
I think that the players that don't wear face masks and don't have helmets on are actually can be more viable in this space than anybody.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I look at beach volleyball, I look at baseball, I look at softball and soccer and those types. I mean, you go take Dylan Cruz off LSU's baseball team.
Right.
I mean, guy's going to be the first pick in the first round in the draft in 2 years.
Right.
And you're raising canes or walk-ons or somebody just says, hey, man, pimp my brand for a year.
No doubt. Tell everybody again about the show, how folks can get it.
Yeah, man. FM Digital Media is the company that we started down in Baton Rouge, and what we're looking to do is bring in digital media talent and everything from sports to fashion to food to outdoors. We've talking to people in all types of space, fitness, fashion. We're looking forward to the future at FM Digital Media. My show is the Jordy Culotta Show, a part of that under the umbrella that runs 7 to 9 a.m. Mikey Matuk has a show 11 to 1. Under the umbrella as well. So a lot of cool stuff happening over there. We're on YouTube, 7 to 9 a.m., and our website is jordyculottashow.com.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, E.
Congratulations
Great
once
to
again.
see you, man.
You too,
Great
bud.
to see you.
Again, Jordy Culotta, the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, that was outstanding. I don't know where you're going to get that kind of information. Remember, the Jordy Culotta Show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, there are plenty of ways to be able to catch our program. I know it's Mardi Gras. Plenty of ways to catch our program now. The first rebroadcast is tonight at 6 p.m. on WLAE-TV, 10 o'clock on The Deuce, WLAE-TV 2. Tomorrow night, again, Friday night, 9 o'clock, Pelican Sports Television, 10 o'clock on WLAE. Then Saturday morning on Pelican Sports Television. I'm sorry, Saturday morning on The Deuce and at 2 a.m. and then on Pelican Sports Television at 5 p.m. on Saturday afternoon. Always at ericasher.com, always on the WLAE-TV YouTube page, always on our social media platforms. At Eric_Asher on Twitter, Eric Asher on Facebook, Inside New Orleans Show on Instagram. Of course, want to thank Jordy Culotta. Also want to thank our great underwriters who underwrite our program. Remember, you catch me on the radio, 106.1 FM. That is weekdays 4 to 6. Again, all our social media platforms carry the program. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app on the digital media side, and of course, ericasher.com with the stream. I want to thank Ron Yeager. want to thank Jim Dotson. Want to thank also Alex Chacon, Logan Graffia, my director William Hill, and of course all the great sponsors sponsor our program. And I want to thank Jordy Culotta for making the trip down here to New Orleans. Thanks so much for watching Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host Eric Asher. Happy Mardi Gras, everybody. We'll see you next week.